that people didn't love them, but it's just that it maybe can't be shown in the way that the baby and the child needs. So what they internalize is I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, it's my fault, there's something wrong with me. So they do accept that these things
Mm.
happen to them, but that's not an okay thing.
Yeah, it's
And
not.
it's not
No.
about me saying to them, it's not an okay that you feel like that. It's about me showing them that
Yeah.
this is, and that is what the interruption doesn't do. It doesn't show them, because the only way we're going to change that feeling of being unloved to loved, being unvalued to valued, is to demonstrate it over and over and
Mm.
over again,
Mm.
just like it was demonstrated over and over again that they were unlovable, unvaluable, and all those other things. So words aren't going to change it, are they? The kind words and that. But it is our actions that change,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what's important, is that those micro or massive interruptions, whatever they are, feed into this negative self-view and self-esteem and stuff that they have of themselves, rather than what we want them to feel is loved, valued, and then be able to manage interruptions, because it is going to happen.
Mm.
But if you're managing it from a point of, I'm okay, the world's
Yeah.
okay, relationships are okay, the interruption means something different than if you're experiencing it from, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, relationships aren't trustworthy, the world is messed up. The interruptions
Yes.
mean something different. And it's that for me, it's the
Yeah.
value that we place on, that we demonstrate to these kids, to all kids over
For
and over
all
again.
kids. Yeah.
You are the most amazing, important thing in this world, and we value you. So we're
Yeah.
not going to bloody photocopy. We're not going to get rid of your funding. We're not going to just pop in because I've left me glasses on the side. I'm going to live without me glasses for an hour. It's not going to kill me, because you are more important
Yeah.
than that. That is for me the most important. As a therapist, we
Yes, to protect that. And it's helping me think about what meaning is conveyed by a child who shrugs at an interruption. And it's not that the shrug itself is something to be a bit concerned about, because actually for a child who has experienced um, a strong bond with the adults around them, a child who does navigate the ups and downs of life okay, a child who knows themselves and knows that life, has its stresses. That child's shrug might be coming from a place of, actually, Julie, I'm really okay with this. You know, I know it's a pain, but we're in a school and I know I'm valued. I know I'm loved, and I'll just stop playing for 20 seconds while Mrs. So and so gets her glasses, and I'll be okay. So their shrug might convey actually a real strength.
Mhm.
But another child's shrug is the one that I'm more bothered by, the one that I feel, oh, what has life given you that means that, if Mrs. So and so is coming in to cook her dinner and eat it and phone her friends, you'd still be shrugging, because you've got this internal model of yourself that says, I'm not worthy. Other people walk all over me. I don't get to make any decisions. I don't have any control. So it's what we're doing all the time as therapists, isn't it? Is
Mm.
not just looking at and hearing what the child is saying and seeing their bodies. We're really linking it up to thousands of other experiences with that child, those micro experiences that give us clues into how that child sees themselves. Quite often, those interruptions can't be avoided. But if we know the child really well, we have a sense of how we might help celebrate the fact that they can navigate that. Oh, that was really annoying, wasn't it? Shouldn't have happened. Mrs. So and so should just remember her glasses. That would be the sort of solid child. And but with the child who's got a more wobbly sense of themselves, and their shrug just is a giving up shrug, then I want to work much more with them to say, do you know, that really wasn't okay. You are worth
Absolutely.
so much more than that. I'm going to work really, really hard. Do you know what? I'm going to put a chair against the door, or let's put a bigger sign on the door. That's my responsibility. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again next week. I might go over, you're not overboard. It's what that child needs. I might give a much bigger response. But we need to know our children so well to get a sense of what an interruption means to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think there's just as we kind of come towards the end, there's the interruptions of the big scale, like COVID. I've just done
Wow.
an episode. It will be out by the time this goes out with Mandy Jones Fisher, and we talked about the impact of COVID on certainly for Mandy. She's working with those 4, 5, 6 year olds who were either in utero or newly born, and
Mhm.
really the impact that she has seen on that cohort of children who are
Yes.
now hitting school. So that's some, the COVID itself and everything that we lacked in that time, um, has had a big impact, and it's not something we can talk about. But it was also an interruption everybody's life, to adults' lives, to children's lives, to everybody's lives, and
Yes.
it was a scary, scary, scary interruption. Um,
Well, it's interesting. I was at the time of COVID, so this is March 2020. I was working in an adoption and fostering agency, and I was working with probably about 12 families on my case case list. Hey, I don't like that term. I had 12 families that I was working with. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't go to their homes, they couldn't come to the office, I couldn't see them. And it also marked the end of the whole service. It was gonna close in the July. So there were 2 massive interruptions for those families, but in the time I had with them between March and July when it finally closed, most of the families I contacted actually really enjoyed that interruption,
mm,
because if there were 2 parents, I remember these 2 dads, they had just adopted 2, sort of a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, roughly that age. And they were just so delighted to all be at home all the time. And I think for that particular family and several others I was working with, it really helped bond them. They were in their first 1 or 2 years of adoption. And actually, COVID was a real release because the kids didn't have to go to school. They could have done because they would have been classed as vulnerable children. The parents didn't need to go out to work, and also they couldn't have visitors. And
mm.
it allowed them to just be their family unit and really get to know each other constantly for that first, what was it, 6, 8, 10 weeks. Um, so I'm also think curious about what are the advantages of interruptions?
Yeah,
You know,
and
it
I guess certainly for COVID, for kids who, school is really hard. Um,
yes, huge
Actually not
relief.
having to go to school, it was amazing, wasn't it? And you could
Yes,
see anxiety come down, you can see connections build, behaviors that were probably trickier at home almost start to disappear because actually the weather was great, wasn't it? People were outside if they had the space,
yeah.
So there are definitely some advantages to it, but that ends. And those kids that had a great time, or not a great time, but that stress and anxiety and that was reduced because they weren't going to school. They didn't have, children who'd got social anxiety and stuff like that. All that was taken away, like you say, because they didn't have to do those things.
Mm,
But then the world restarts. So then we interrupt
yes,
this, this, actually I feel safe now. I don't have to see people. We interrupt that and you have
yeah,
to go back and you can see then how that impacts. And
yes.
and then
And
there was no there was no, provision to support that. You were at home or then you were back in it, and there was no way to, because we didn't know. That was not a, it's
No.
not a thing. We just didn't know, did we? But
Yeah.
I
And then it all happened again,
yeah.
we were on, off, on, off. But yeah, the benefits of interruptions as well as the difficulties with interruptions and how we as therapists, parents help children to notice that they're wobbled by interruptions and also know that they are part of life. Things don't continue in the same way all the time. I often think about children's bodies. They are forever being sort of interrupted. Their growth is
Mm,
constantly letting go of being a 5-year-old to become 6, letting go of 6 to become 7. They're growing at such a fast rate compared to us as adults. They their sense of balance is always being interrupted because their body changes. But the advantages of having a break to come away from the intensity of therapy and actually try it out, how a child in a break, how I as an adult in a break from my own therapy can actually, almost sort of stand on my own 2 feet, try out life with the therapist on my shoulder rather than directly in front of me. And that's where I feel I can get my muscles going. Um,
and I guess that's the same for school, isn't it? Like the interruption to school during the summer holidays, and and there's pros and cons, I guess, with work that we have such a long time. Actually, it allows children just to be without those pressures of learning, without those pressures of all the things that come with a school day. That actually that interruption into that school life is actually, for some children, the thing that they live for. That's the best time, isn't it? Because they can go and
mm,
be, and they don't have to get up, they don't have to do the homework, they don't have to put the scratchy, itchy school uniform on, or for other children, it's a
it's
lack of
really hard.
stability, it's a lack of school meals, it's you know, so there isn't one fits all, is there? That's the thing.
No.
I suppose for me, the biggest thing is about how do we value the child within the interruption that's about to happen? How
Yeah.
do we know, or even
How do we
begin to
notice
think
maybe?
about, yeah,
Yeah.
what that is like for them?
Yes.
And even if we can just name it to be with it, we might not be able to change it.
No.
But we definitely can value it, and that for me is the biggest thing, is about how, and the stuff about the ASF, GSF, whatever we call it, the Adoption and Guardianship Support Fund, is that there feels like there's a lack of value for the children, that we are focused on money. And I know that there is financial considerations, and I know actually, how do we think about an individual child and the messages that we give to them, and and their families about, you are super important and super amazing, and there is constraints to what we can and can't do. You are going to have a school holiday, and we
Mm.
are going to miss you. We are, I'm your teacher, and you're not going to come back to me next year. And
Mm.
that, how hard's that? And then so then there's a loss, and then you go through the summer holidays and it's great, and then the week before you remember you're not gonna have Miss McCann anymore, and you're gonna see Miss Kelly, and she's not quite
Oh,
as nice or as pleasant as Miss Cannon. You're gonna be a
think it'd
bit
be the other way round.
you know that, how do we honor and value that with whilst knowing it's got to happen? Do you know
Yes,
what I
we
mean?
can't take it away. There are limitations, there are disappointments, there are disruptions. But how do we help a child and their parents notice what's happening for that child and what messages from of old are still playing out? What old feelings are being stirred up by even the tiniest interruption? And
Mm,
saying never mind or, oh, everybody gets a bit upset when Miss Kelly leaves and, oh, that's just life. That's not really getting to the heart of what's happening for that child, which is, gosh, you're really, really sad. Or it looks like you really don't mind. And I'm wondering if actually somewhere you do mind that I'm not going to be here for 2 months because of my knee. I think somewhere that might be feeling not very good. Even though the child's saying, I don't mind. Be nice not to come for 2 months. Oh, I just wonder, I often look up, so I don't look at the child, I kind of look around the room and go, I just wonder whether you might also be feeling a bit cross with me that I'm not going to be here for you. I've got to go and care for something in my own body and I won't be able to see you for a while. But I might, and then I often finish with, but I might be wrong.
Mm.
Yeah, I might have got this wrong. But I just sometimes want to plant a possibility of another feeling that isn't just, not just because that is what the child has needed to use, a shrugging, a pushing off, a never mind, or a, well, that's life, is to offer some empathy and to go that next layer with them.
And I think it's also about them knowing. I think you talked about in an episode before about professional love. It's also about them knowing, actually, I'm going to miss you. I value
Mm,
our time together. Where I'm going to miss playing with you. I'm going to miss being with you. I'm going to miss hearing about
mm,
your day or your week, and I will really look forward to hearing, about what Easter eggs you got or whatever it is when you come back to see me. You might be feeling this and I'm feeling this too because you're of value to me.
mm,
This relationship is
mm,
important to me and I delight in you. That's the thing is I
mm,
delight in these moments that we have together. And I'm going to miss those moments. I think you might be
mm.
too. If you don't, it's fine. If you don't, but you know, I think it needs to be both ways in some ways. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before, probably, off mic, but you have an endlessly positive, delighting in your clients. And I don't always share that. I notice sometimes I'm really relieved to have a break from a child sometimes. There are some children I feel, yeah, relief and release when they cancel an appointment because I find working with them so incredibly difficult. It stirs up some things for me. It can be very attacking. It can be very scary. And, there are some children who I do deliberately only see once a fortnight because it's so intense. And it's like our bodies need quite a long time to recover from that, to go back
Mm,
into that intensity. So I also know interruptions can be valued by me as a sense of relief because working with some clients and some families are, I find much, much harder to be alongside because they're in a hurting place, they're in an angry place, the system's let them down, they're really cross with me about something. That can be hard. And so the breaks, the interruptions can sometimes be a relief. So I'm
yeah.
just putting that out as an alternative view. I'm hoping there are other people listening
I
thinking, "Oh, yeah, that's me as well." Uh, 'Cause otherwise I'm on my own.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure there are. Yeah, there and I think maybe that's our next episode is how do we always delight in children? Or families? Do we always have are we always able to find that thing? That's for me is what do you find that you can connect with, that you can see and feel that empathy and feel that delight?
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
very,
that
very,
yeah.
very few that I can't do that with, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's hard, and I wonder if
yeah,
that's and I know that that's not for everybody, there are things that
yeah.
ones and I wonder if that's our next episode is when
Yeah,
clients push our buttons? How do we
that sort
find
of
the delight?
that how do we offer what, Carl Rogers would say is that unconditional positive regard? What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you? And what does that mean to me? Because I think you and I have quite different reactions to some of our clients. We could be in the
Yeah.
room with the same client and it would do different things to my body and my psyche to it would with you. And I'm curious about why that happens because I've been seeing videos of your clients for I think probably about 8 years. And so often when you show me a video of a Theraplay client, I'll go, "Oh my gosh, Philip, how did you even stay in the room?" And then you'll say, "Oh, he's a darling, really." And I'm like, "Gosh, that's hard." That where does that come from? What is it that's brought you to see your clients in that way and brings me to see my clients sometimes in a, "Oh, I'm gonna be glad to finish with that
Mm.
family." So,
Yeah, and I think the importance that sometimes you need to have not the delight in some ways, because actually that's how
yes.
families experience this kid. So if I and so always being able to find those moments might for the child be amazing, but it's not always validating for a family or a,
No.
or a so there is pros and cons to it, I think, and it's how we work that. But I think that's a whole other episode, Julie.
That's a whole episode. Yeah. What is it like for your families to see you delighting in their children and getting a really warm relationship going with their children when they aren't able yet to do that in their day-to-day life? That
Yeah.
can be really painful for a parent to witness in
Or
that
that they
sort of
feel
boundary.
you don't seem like he doesn't do in here what she does at
Yeah.
home. And
Yeah.
that's true. And how
How do
do you
we
work with that? And how do you have the delight, the joy, the connection, and still be able to validate that actually they hit, they punch, they kick, they swear, they refuse to do everything at home. We want them to
Mm.
experience the delight, but we also want to honour the parents, the family's experience of actually it's not this joyful and easy at home.
No. How do we bring that into the
Yeah,
room? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. The raging child, the child who arrives, as one of mine did recently, at the front door, raging, really
Mm,
raging, and didn't want to come into the session.
yeah,
And I said, "Well, you can come into the session and rage." She's like, "Oh, okay."
yeah,
And we found a way of doing that and releasing some of that rage, expressing it. So, yeah, delight and rage. Whole other
yeah.
episode, Philippa.
Yeah, so thank you for listening to this episode of Pondering Play and Therapy. We are available on all major podcasts. Also, you can watch us on YouTube and give us a like on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. All helps us. Thanks very much for listening.
Okay, bye bye.